If somebody started needing something from you every single time you said you were finally getting ahead, stay with this story. Because it happened to a woman I know, over and over, and it took her the longest time to see the pattern. Every time she opened her mouth about money, the money found a door and left. Her name was Wanda, 54 years old, and she pushed a cleaning cart down the 6th floor of the hospital over on Blythe Boulevard in Charlotte, 5 nights a week. Third shift, when the halls go quiet and the only sound is the wheels of that cart and the machines breathing behind the closed doors. She wiped down rails nobody would ever thank her for wiping. She emptied the little bins in rooms where families sat holding hands they were scared to let go of. She was good at being invisible. She had gotten good at it on purpose. And here is the thing that had eaten at her for years. Wanda worked hard. Everybody who knew her would tell you that. She never missed a shift. Not even the winter her knees swelled up so bad she wrapped them in an ace bandage under her scrubs and kept going. So how come, at 54, there was never anything left? How come she could name every dollar that came in and not one that stayed? She used to lie awake in the morning after her shift, with the blinds shut against the sun, doing the same math she had done 1,000 times, and the math never came out different. She thought the problem was the money. She would find out, a lot later than she wanted to, that the problem was her mouth. Not lies. Wanda didn't lie. It was the opposite. She told everybody everything. And in her family, in the house she grew up in over in Greer Heights, that was supposed to be a virtue. Let me tell you about that house first, because you can't understand Wanda without it. She grew up the oldest of 4 in a shotgun house where her mama, Miss Dorothy, worked the steam press at a dry cleaner until her hands looked like they belonged to somebody older. Her mama had a rule, she said, like scripture. We don't keep secrets in this family. Everything on the table. And she meant it about everything, but especially about money. When somebody got paid, the whole house knew. When somebody was short, the whole house knew that too, and everybody pitched in, because that was love, and Wanda believed it was love, and in a lot of ways, it was. Her nights all ran together. She clocked in at 11, and by 2 in the morning, her lower back had that ache that never fully went away anymore. She knew which rooms held the sick that were getting better, and which held the ones that weren't, by the sounds, by the way the families left their coffee cups. She kept peppermints in her cart pocket for the ones who couldn't sleep. On her break, she sat in the back stairwell and ate whatever she'd wrapped in foil at home, and she counted, always counting, the light bill against the bus pass against what Marcus might need, and the numbers never left room for her. Then she pushed the cart down the hall again, quiet as a ghost, so good at not being noticed that she had almost stopped noticing herself. So Wanda grew up telling. She told her sister Renee when she got her raise at the hospital. The little 75-cent bump that felt like the sky opening. She told her son Marcus, grown now, 27, sweet as anything and always a little behind, whenever a check looked good. She told the ladies in the break room, the ones she loved, when she was going to finally start putting something back. She said it out loud like a promise, because saying it out loud was how her mama had taught her to be honest. She had one thing she never told anybody about. Under her bed, pushed back against the wall behind a box of winter blankets, there was a small grey metal box. A lock box, the kind you buy at the hardware store for $11. She had bought it herself with her own money on a Tuesday for no reason she could have explained to you. There was a little brass key that went with it, and she kept that key on a shoelace in her uniform pocket, and sometimes on the bus home she would put her hand in that pocket and just hold it. She didn't know yet what the box was for. It was empty, but she couldn't make herself get rid of it. If you have ever held on to something you couldn't explain, you already understand her better than her own family did. I want you to sit with her a minute, because there are women watching right now who are Wanda, who work like a mule and can't figure out where it all goes. And this channel was built for exactly you. If nobody has told you lately that you're tired is real, let me be the one. Now stay with me, because the day it turned for her didn't look like anything at all. Here is where it broke. It was a Friday, payday, in the spring. Wanda had been doing it right for 2 whole months. She had told herself, and then, being who she was, she had told Renee, and she had told Marcus, and she had told Sister Pam in the break room that this was the year. She was going to put back $100 a check. She had said it at Renee's kitchen table with real tears in her eyes, because she meant it with her whole chest. That Friday, she had the money. 5 20s folded in the zip part of her purse, headed for the box under the bed. And that Friday, 3 things happened, the way they always happened, like they could smell it. Marcus called first. His car had done the thing again, the clicking, and the man wanted $200 just to look at it, and he was so ashamed on the phone, her baby, and what is a mother going to do? Then Renee, whose lights were about to go off, and you cannot let your own sister sit in the dark, not when she sat with you through your worst. And then, small, almost nothing, a collection at church for a family whose house had a fire, and Wanda's hand was in her purse before the plate reached her. By Sunday night, the 5 20s were gone, and 30 more with them. And it wasn't wrong. None of it was wrong. That is what made it so hard. She sat on the edge of her bed and pulled that empty grey box out and held it in her lap and looked at it. For 54 years, she had believed you tell your people everything, and maybe that was exactly why she had never once managed to keep anything. She didn't have words for that thought yet. She just held the box until her hands got cold, and then she pushed it back against the wall, and she didn't cry, which surprised her because she had promised herself she wouldn't, and for once she didn't. She thought that was the low point. She didn't know the part that would sting worse was still a few weeks off. Now Wanda went to Little Rock AME Zion, had gone her whole life, and there was a woman there named Miss Ernestine who had ushered at that church for longer than Wanda had been alive. 76 years old, back straight as a fence post, white gloves on Communion Sunday. Miss Ernestine kept a little garden in the strip of dirt behind the fellowship hall. Collards, okra, some tomatoes that never did much. After service, she was usually back there, and Wanda took to helping her, mostly to have somewhere to be that wasn't her own quiet apartment. One Sunday in June, Wanda was on her knees in that dirt pulling weeds, and out of nowhere, not even meaning to, she said it. Said the whole thing, how she worked so hard, how there was never anything left, how she had promised everybody and let everybody down, herself most of all. Miss Ernestine didn't stop what she was doing. She had her hands down in the okra, and she talked to the plants more than to Wanda, the way old church women do. She said, "Some things only grow in the dark, baby. You keep digging 'em up to show folks how they coming along, and they die on you every time." That was all. She didn't explain it. She probably didn't know she had said anything at all. She patted the dirt back around a stalk and moved on down the row, humming something, and Wanda stayed there on her knees with her hands full of weeds and that sentence just sitting on her chest like a hand. She rode the bus home that evening and didn't hear a word anybody said. There was a woman across the aisle talking on her phone loud enough for the whole bus, telling somebody exactly how much her tax check was going to be. And Wanda watched her and thought about okra growing in the dark and couldn't have told you why the two things went together. Her stomach felt tight the whole way. When she got off at her stop, the streetlight was buzzing that broken way it did, on and off, and she stood under it a second longer than she needed to. She got home and she did what she always did. She called Renee just to talk. And halfway through telling Renee about her week, she caught herself starting to say something about next payday, about trying again, and she stopped, right in the middle of the sentence. She said never mind. She was tired. She'd call her tomorrow. She hung up and stood in her kitchen holding the phone and didn't know why she had done that. The linoleum was cold through her socks. She noticed that. She noticed she felt like she had gotten away with something, and then she felt bad for feeling that way, because keeping quiet felt like a lie, and Wanda didn't lie. She almost called Renee right back to finish the sentence. Her thumb was over the button. She didn't. She stood there in the dark kitchen for a while after that. The refrigerator kicked on and hummed. She thought about her mama at that steam press, hands red and swollen, telling the whole house everything, and she thought, for the first time in her life, that maybe her mama had told everything because there had never been anything to keep. Maybe telling was just what you did when the plate was already empty before it reached you. That thought scared her a little. It felt like disloyalty. She put it away. But she noticed she didn't put it back all the way you leave a drawer open a crack because you know you'll be coming back to it. She found the little brass key in her uniform pocket the next morning without remembering taking it out. She was standing at the sink and it was just there in her hand. She held it longer than she needed to, turning it over, and then she put it down on the counter, and then she picked it up again. Here is what nobody tells you about a habit. You don't decide to change it. Not really, not at first. Your body just starts doing something a little different before your mind catches up. That next Friday, Wanda got paid, and something was off in her, quiet, like a radio playing in another room. She had $100 for the box, and when Marcus texted, not even asking yet, just warming up, just telling her his tire was low, she looked at that text a long time, and she did something she had never done in 54 years. She didn't answer it with money, and she didn't announce anything, and she didn't promise anybody a thing. She just walked into her bedroom, pulled out the grey box, put 5 20s in it, and locked it. Click. Small sound. Then she texted Marcus back that she loved him, and she'd see him Sunday, and that was all, and she felt like a stranger in her own body. It didn't feel good. That is the part the pretty stories leave out. It felt like she had done something cold. She lay awake that morning behind the shut blinds, ashamed of the $100 in the box, like it was stolen, like it belonged to somebody who needed it more, and half of her wanted to get up and undo it. She thought about her mama. We don't keep secrets in this family, she thought. Is this a secret? Is this the thing Mama warned me about? She didn't sleep much. The next Friday she did it again. Click. And the one after that. She stopped saying the word saving to anybody. She stopped saying she was trying. She stopped, and this was the strange part, she stopped needing to be seen doing the right thing. And somewhere in there, she started to notice something that made her sit down on the edge of the tub one morning and stay there. When she didn't tell, nobody came. Not because they didn't love her, because they didn't know. The money in the box was money that used to walk out the door the minute her mouth opened, and now it just sat there in the dark, growing, like okra. And every 2 weeks, there was more of it, and not one person on this earth knew but her. She counted it one Sunday morning before church, not for anybody, just to know. She had the box open on the floor, and the light coming grey through the blinds, and her good church shoes still off, and she counted the 20s twice because the first time her hands weren't steady. $600. She sat on the floor with the bills in her lap, and she named the thing she had never had a word for. She wasn't dishonest. She had never been dishonest. She just, for the first time in her life, had something that was only hers. And the shame she thought she'd feel didn't come. What came was quieter than that, something like the feeling of a house after everybody's finally asleep, and she didn't want to lose it. She thought she'd feel like her mama's warning, a woman with a secret. But it didn't feel like a secret. It felt like a seed. There was a difference, she was learning, between hiding something because it was wrong and keeping something because it was still too small and too new to survive being handled by everybody's hands. She locked the box back up. Click. She went to church that morning and put her tithe in the plate, same as always, and sang the same as always, and nobody looking at her would have known a single thing had changed. That was the whole point. That was the first thing in her life that being unseen had ever given her instead of taken. Here is what she stopped telling herself, and I want you to hear it, because somebody watching needs it tonight. Keeping something for yourself is not the same as lying to the people you love. A woman is allowed to have one thing that grows in the dark. She kept on. Fall came. The box got heavier. She got a little braver in the small ways, brave enough to tell Marcus no once, gently, when it wasn't a real emergency, just a want, and the sky did not fall, and Marcus figured it out, the way grown children do when their mama finally stops being the bank. By the next spring, 1 year almost to the day from that Friday, she sat holding the empty box. Wanda counted $2,300, all of it in 20s and 10s. All of it quiet. She had never in her life had $2,000 of her own at one time. She sat on the floor a long while. Then she did something small that told her everything had changed. She went to the credit union on her lunch, the little branch near the hospital, and she opened an account in her own name. And when the young man asked, did she want to add anybody else to it, a spouse, a son, she said no. Just me. And she said it plain, without ensuring anybody's feelings first, and she walked back out into the parking lot and stood there in the sun with the little paper in her hand, and felt the strangest thing. She felt like herself. Like the girl she had been before, she learned that love meant telling. She still tithed. She still helped Renee when the lights were truly about to go. She still loved her people out loud. She just quit narrating the one small part of her life that was hers to grow. There was a young woman at the hospital on the housekeeping crew named Tiara, 26, a little one at home, always tired around the eyes the way Wanda used to be. One night in the supply closet, restocking the carts, Tiara said it, the same thing Wanda used to say. I work so hard, and there's just never nothing left. And she laughed when she said it, that laugh women do when it isn't funny. Wanda looked at her and saw her own self at that age so clear it hurt, the exact same tired, the exact same telling everybody her business and wondering where it all went. She almost gave her a speech. She didn't. She thought about Miss Ernestine and the okra, how the old woman never explained a thing, just said it and let it grow. Wanda reached in her pocket. The brass key was still on its shoelace. She still carried it, even now, even with the credit union account, because some things you keep. She didn't show Tiara the key. She just closed her hand around it and she said, real quiet, real easy, like she was talking to the okra. Some things only grow in the dark, baby. You quit telling everybody where your money's going and watch what stays. Tiara kind of laughed. Then she didn't. She got quiet. And Wanda saw it land on her the same way it had landed on Wanda a year before, on her knees in the dirt behind the fellowship hall. She didn't say anything else. She went back to stocking the cart. But she watched that girl walk her cart down the hall a little slower than usual, thinking, and Wanda knew she had handed her something, not money, something better than money. She had handed her the quiet. Before you go tonight, do one thing for me. Comment down below the words, I kept it, and tell me one thing you're going to stop announcing and just start doing, quiet, for yourself. I read every single one, and I promise you are not the only woman who needed to hear this. Send this to your sister, your mama, your friend who works too hard for how little she keeps. She needs it too. And if this is your first time here, this space was built for women like Wanda, women like you, who give everybody everything and forget they are allowed to keep a corner of it. Subscribe and tap the little bell so the next story finds you when you need it. If you want to take the first step today, there is a free app that will help you bring a little order to all of this, quietly, just for you. The link is down in the comments. Now go on and rest. You worked hard enough. Some things grow in the dark, and so do you.